It's really hard to explain in a way without sort of giving you a body and getting you to feel it under your hands and seeing what happens in a knife. And even then, we tend to sort of have to take things apart to demonstrate it. So explaining fascia and muscle and the layers of it can be quite tricky. So this is just an easy way of doing it, which is a little easy peel satsuma, tangerine, whatever you want to call it. And I use this quite often as a model, and if you've ever heard me talk, I might throw a few of these out into the audience, depending on how big the audience is, to have a play with it. But the basic principle is that this is full of cellulose, and cellulose is to humans what collagen, cellulose is to plants what collagen is to humans, and vice versa. So collagen is to humans what cellulose is to plants. And so if we sort of peel away at this, we might get some idea as to the kind of thing that we're talking about when we talk about fascia and muscle and connective tissues. So let's have a little look at this. So if I just peel this away, it's a little bit dried out, but if we say that this represents, if you like, the skin, this is our sort of skin layer, our outer layer that we're looking at, and this sort of skin layer is able to be peeled away, and we can see that there's a few layers to the skin, that there's an outer layer, there's an inner layer, and once we peel it away, we might go to it, say to ourselves, well, look, there's just this pith that's on the inside. But what we've got to bear in mind, and this is quite a useful opportunity to show you this, is that on the inside here, what we're doing is we're pulling the pith away from where it's embedded into it. So you can see that little, you can see that there, little pull. See, that's pulling out. So exactly the same way that we sort of mistaken ourselves for years. I took superficial fascia away from skin, and we created these layers. But really, there isn't really a layer. What we're doing is destroying the relationship between this bit of layer, this bit of tissue, this bit of structure. It's gone, and this bit of structure. So we're pulling at it. There's that fuzzy bit, yeah. And then we get to our next layer down, and we're going to call this. Oh, pigeons are out. You can probably see that there. So sometimes that sticks. We see this in dissection as well, that this sort of sticks. And we'll call this layer down. There's our sort of separation, and we'll call this layer down the outside. We can call this deep fascia, if you like. And we've created that separation. And you might go, well, this is the actual segment. So the segments are held together. They're held together, and they are independent. Once we pull them apart, there is a relationship there that's now separate between the two, and maybe we could join that up and call that an intermuscular septum at the back there. Those pigeons aren't going in my cabbages. But this isn't the end of the story. This is the bit where we might put this in our mouth. But if we go a little bit further, what we can see is that there's a little bit of skin that sits across the top of this, and we might call this the in the absence of any aponeurosis or aponeurotic tissue, we might call this the epimysium, the epimysial layer of the muscle, the fascia. This is the muscle. It's an individual muscle within the structure, and I'm trying to sort of peel this away. And then, as we peel this away, what we see is the surface, the outside of the epimysial tissue, is giving way to. I'm making right messes. Giving away to the inside layers, but it's embedded. The outside layer isn't separate from the inside layer. It's part of the covering. It's just that as the fibers go deeper, there we go, a nice peeling bit there. As the fibers go deeper, they become smaller, they become narrower. And then what we end up with on the inside of this is we end up with these little tiny little bundles of tangerine orange. Well, is that the orange? Is that it then? No, because now what's wrapping around each individual little bit of fiber there, little bit of segment there, tiny little piece of flesh of the orange, is another piece of connective tissue, another bit of cellulose. And when we play with that to any degree, the whole thing falls apart, and we're just left with this husk, if you like. So the juice then pulls away out of the inside of this. We could call that the muscle cell, the sarcoplasmic reticulum, if you like, and all this is happening with inside. But the whole thing is held together. So once we pull the connective tissue apart, the integrity of the inside of it, this thing is barely recognizable anymore as a structure, as a muscle, as a tangerine segment. And so what we're left with is we're left with this little piece that's falling apart. Let's compare that to our other segment. There's our other segment, and then there's our whole bit of orange in there, still sitting into that, still sitting in, held in place. What's it held in place by? It's connective tissue. In this place, in this instance, it's cellulose. Yeah. So once you start to touch the inside of these things, you sort of the muscles, or in this case, the sort of the fleshy part, the sugary part of the orange segment, it just kind of falls apart. There's nothing much to it. There's no integrity. So it relies entirely for its integrity on the fascia that surrounds it. There you go. So it's a kind of messy way of demonstrating it, but there's always a bonus to doing this, which is that you get to eat the tangerine at the end of it. And again, if you don't peel away the sort of the pithy bits from the outside, it becomes trickier and difficult to chew. And we can do this model with muscle or meat or anything like that, but I kind of like doing with this because it's instant gratification.